Hey everyone. Okay, so first big thing to talk about is the revelation of Frey's motives, which is that, as she so blatantly puts out, she is seeking to die because, in her own words, Freyja, having become a master of the sword, has left her own existence feeling empty, devoid of purpose, devoid of stimulation, just devoid of anything that can fill that hole in her heart, so to speak, as she believes there's no one who can match her in combat. And this is one of those things that leaves me fascinated by Mashima's ideology about death in relation to our dreams and goals, as we as humans are always like striving to reach some goal or desire in life, but we never really wonder what happens when we achieve that thing we desire, when we do fulfill that one ultimate goal we set for ourselves. We never question what comes next, what happens next, or where do we go in life from there once we've pretty much achieved the goal we've set for ourselves. And in most cases, we do end up finding some new purpose to continue living, and yet there is kind of a very dark reality to how Freyja speaks about having reached this peak, that there's no one who have opposed her that she has not defeated. Like, she is the ultimate warrior, and she discovered there is like an emptiness with such a title, a void so impossible to fill that what other choice there but to pursue one's own end. And yes, I'm fully aware it is kind of that fallacy of going from one extreme to another, but the idea in itself of losing your passion and drive for the thing you pursued once you find yourself having reached the peak of that goal, it is still a very real thing. And yet, and sometimes, and in cases like that, you do find yourself in that pit of like, where do I go? What do I really need? What do I have? What can I or how can I move on? What's next for me? What next thing can I pursue in order to give me purpose in life? That's we're always kind of, I think those are questions we're kind of always subconsciously asking ourselves in some point or another. It's just we never really think about them at the forefront of our minds, and in that sense, I almost wonder if Freyja's speech is Mashima's attempt at a commentary on himself as well. That, yeah, he knows he's not perfect. He knows his works aren't going to be for everyone other than a niche audience, but he's okay with that because those flaws people have with his work give him validation that he never validation to something that I think he already knew, which is that he's never claimed that he wanted to write a great manga. He's never wanted to be like the Dragon Balls or the Narutos or the One Pieces or anything like that. He just wants to write the stories he wants to tell. That's really his, I think, only ever been his real passion in life, and it's something I think I have kind of come to appreciate after reading this story, and even having read Rave Master. Is the man doesn't really care about where he stands on the mangaka popularity totem pole. Honestly, he just wants to write stories he wants to write. That's all it is. But okay, getting back to the fight itself, though, we see near the end of the chapter that Freyja is tracking a source of power heading towards her and Homura, and it's revealed that yes, it is in fact Valkyrie, which, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with, as Freyja has definitely proven both herself that both in this chapter and last week's chapter that she is the ultimate swordsman. So having Valkyrie and Homura team up is one of those things where I am glad that Mashima did recognize that both of them are kind of necessary to have a shot at taking her down at this point. Like, you can't just rely on just one or the other. You need both of them in order to take them down. So it's good that, yeah, he's making use of the factor that Homura and Valkyrie are both like alive to fight this fight. Also, I gotta be honest, with how this fight is already progressing, I find myself less and less interested in the idea of that either Homura or Valkyrie could die, and more so just questioning who or what could even stop Freyja at this point. Because even with Valkyrie coming to provide assistance. I still don't think it's going to be enough to actually defeat her, but we'll have to see. Like it's going to be a matter of how of how like of how Homura and Valkyrie just work off each other and really develop and really utilize all the skills they have in order to defeat in order to defeat in order to defeat Freyja. So it's like hopefully they can pull out something in both of their baggage tricks to pull this off. What But even more than that, one little detail also appreciate that we get from Freyja is that she had pursued the idea of fighting Void and dying by his hand at one point. But one thing that stopped her from doing so is that she realized he is a man lost to time, and not being of the world she's from made the idea of dying by his hand seem empty to her. To her, to Freyja, there is a certain pride that if she's going to die at the hands of someone else, it has to be one who's a naturally born raised fighter rather than one who's from some other time or space. It has to be someone who was basically born, who's born in this, who's raised as a natural fighter, not one who was kind of like born out of a wish or a test tube. And it shows that she does have some moral center, however twisted it's become by everything else going on. And yeah, that aside, there's not really a whole lot much more to talk about. Kind of a really short chapter this week, if I'm being honest, and if I did have maybe one criticism of this chapter, it did feel like compounding the Eden's One's attacking the Eden Zero felt a little unnecessary in the sense of trying to add to the threat, but since Void is basically the Eden's One in physical form, I guess it still does make enough sense to throw it in there. It's just that we're already kind of dealing with a high stake situation against Freyja, so throwing Eden's One in the mix just feels like a background threat, I guess, at this point. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of MMA signing off. Later, everyone.